Hi, my name is Jack Rackham, and today I'm going to show you the royal family tree of Eswatini. You may know this country by a different name, that being Swaziland, which was its official name under the British Empire and after gaining independence all the way until 2018, when it was officially changed to reflect the name used by the Swazi people. It is one of only 3 national monarchies in Africa today, the other 2 being Lesotho and Morocco, and it is the only absolute monarchy on the continent, meaning although the country does have a constitution, it does not limit the power of the king himself. Once again, we're looking at a kingdom that went through European colonization and emerged on the other side, and along the way we'll look at the longest reigning king who ever lived. Ngwane III is considered the first modern king of Eswatini, after he moved the Swazi people to the area near the Pongola River around Zambodze, which became the heartland of the kingdom. He was so influential that the name of the kingdom at that time became Kangwane, meaning country of Ngwane. Another name for the Swazi people is Bakangwane, or people of Ngwane. His rule also saw the first Intwala, a ceremony held every year that there is a king, in which priests set out along the sea and rivers and quote-unquote pillage any Swazi people they encounter along the way, which is to say they're given small trinkets like simple bracelets, coins, or beer. Once they make their way to the king, there are sacred songs, young men gather a sacred species of acacia tree and engage in bullfighting, and then there are several days of song and dance in celebration of the new year and reverence to the king. After Ngwane III was his son, Ndvungunye, about whom there is not much information, but we do know that he expanded the kingdom somewhat. However, his son Sobhuza I, also known as Ngwane IV, conquered significantly more. He reigned around the same time as Shaka Zulu, and made his kingdom an equal power to the Zulu in order to stave off invasion, and allied himself with another group to the south at the same time. He was succeeded by Mswati II, after whom Eswatini is named. He was king when first contact was made with Europeans, in this case nomadic descendants of Dutch settlers from South Africa known as Trekboere. He faced some infighting with his brothers at the beginning of his reign, but ultimately he consolidated power and expanded the kingdom like his father and grandfather before him, reaching into parts of modern-day South Africa and Mozambique. After his death, succession was handled by a crown council, and it's at this point that I should point out that Eswatini is technically not a monarchy, but a diarchy, meaning that power is held by not one, but 2 rulers. The first is the king, and the second is the queen senior, who is often, but not always, the mother of the current king. It was around the time of Mswati II's death that the queen began to play an important role. In this case, the Queen Mother Tsanzile Ndwane took over as regent while the next king was being decided. Ultimately, one of Mswati's sons, Ludvonga, was chosen, but just before his coronation he was poisoned. Thus, a council was put together to determine the next king, and they ultimately gave the decision to Ludvonga's mother, who adopted the next king of Eswatini, Mbanzeni. There was again infighting surrounding the succession, as another one of Mswati's sons allied with the Zulu to overthrow his half-brother Mbanzeni, but he was unsuccessful. During his rule, Mbanzeni made several concessions to white settlers, but under his reign the kingdom remained independent. After his death, however, it became a protectorate of the South African Republic, and a successor king would not be crowned for over 5 years. When Ngwane V became king in 1895, much of his power was held by the Boer government and by his mother. He reigned for only 4 years until he died during the 1899 Intwala. After him came Sobhuza II, who was an infant at the time, just 4 months old. His grandmother, Labotsibeni Mdluli, continued to be the power behind the throne for another 20-some years. Following her, he outlived several queens senior, his mother, aunt, and several of his 70 wives. He lived to be 83 and died in 1982. Now, Sobhuza II is claimed to be the longest confirmed reigning monarch of all time. However, because he wasn't formally handed power until 1921, and Swaziland was a protectorate first of the South African Republic and then the British Empire until 1968, there is some debate as to whether his position should count or not. In my opinion, I say absolutely. A crown council was again assembled to select a successor among Sobhuza's 210 children. In the meantime, his wife Queen Dzeliwe was chosen to act as regent until she was ousted and replaced with Queen Mtvombi. She became the queen mother in 1986 when her son Mswati III was made king of Eswatini, and they are both the rulers of the kingdom today. While Mswati III has made some steps to democratize the country, such as restoring the nation's parliament and issuing a new constitution in 2004, the constitution passed received criticism from Amnesty International for failing to adequately protect certain rights. Since taking the throne in the 80s, his human rights record has received condemnation from the international community as he's been accused of extrajudicial killings and detainments, targeting the LGBT community and activists, and of kidnapping women he wishes to marry. Mswati III is currently 51 and in good health, so it's unlikely Eswatini will see a new king anytime soon, but in any case, it's unclear who his successor will be, given that the Crown Council will have to select among his 35 children, with the exception of those born to his first 2 wives who were appointed to him by the state. But before I go, there are a few other connections I'd like to point out. Mswati III's sister, Mantfombi Dlamini, is married to the king of the Zulu, who is a subnational king within South Africa, so now these 2 houses have combined. And his older half-brother Prince Thumbumuzi married a daughter of Nelson Mandela. You might not know this, but Nelson Mandela is himself connected to a royal family. He is a distant descendant of the Tembu king Ngubengcuka. The Tembu kings are not recognized by the South African government in the same way as the Zulu or the Rain Queens, whom you can learn more about in a previous video, but they are still around today. They are distant cousins of Nelson Mandela. The previous king was actually arrested and is still in prison, and his successor has been selected but is yet to be crowned. Alright, that was a look at the kings of Eswatini. If you enjoyed this video, a thumbs up is always appreciated, and let us know what royal family you'd like to see us cover next in the comments below. Thanks for watching.